Hello everybody, good if you get your words out. Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Ruben Amorim first ever Manchester United match press conference reaction for the Ipswich game, and there is so much to get into on this show. An absolutely fantastic interview, and we have been here before. Jose Mourinho's first one was very good as well. Erik ten Hag's was very good as well, but this is absolutely fantastic. I think there's a few things, sort of headlines. One, he says he's in charge of transfers, which again to me just shows you the amount of nonsense we get fed from so-called in-the-know accounts on Twitter who tell us loads of lies about things that don't happen, like the Glazers will sell to Ineos in 2026. Never happens. There is no veto, there is no power for Amorim because the board are going to have control of transfers, and Amorim has literally said in his interview, I am the person in the strongest position, I'm the manager, I should decide and I choose the players. So very, 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 very interesting about that. Top player talks about it. There's so much to get into. He's spoken about the Casemiro and Rashford thing, which I think was, maybe that's interesting as well. But I think the place I want to start is he clearly has watched a lot of our games. Now, I know that sounds like, wow, breaking news. He's watched a lot of our games, but I don't think some managers do. I think some managers come in and go, I'm the manager that Man United have chosen. I don't need to watch the past because I'm the present, and I will give everybody a clean slate and I will learn. He's definitely watched a lot of Man United matches, and and this can only be a positive because we all individually know what we think needs to happen, don't we? But this is what Amorim had to say, and it just jumped out at me. A few things did, but he was asked about what quick impact, what quick wins can he make at Manchester United? And I don't remember, look, maybe Van Gaal said it, maybe Mourinho said it, maybe Ten Hag said it, maybe Ollie said it, but I don't remember a manager being so, what's the word? Appealingly brutal. And what I mean by that, he gives personality and he's a smiling assassin, basically. He basically ridiculed the team while smiling about it because he was asked it about quick impact, and he said, look, it's simple things. We lose the ball too often and we also need to run back better. But it's on details. It's the simple details and understanding football where we'll make the quick wins. But I loved the fact that he simplifies football. I mean, somebody just said he answers in details. He's charming and competent. These things are really. Look, thanks everyone who's telling me about the studio and the audio. I mean, Slow Sports News. We fully know this, and it will get better. If you don't want to listen to it, please go. Moderators, get rid of them. It's getting boring. We're trying to talk about a press conference here. It will get better. But I'm trying to read comments about things that actually are relevant to what was a really good press conference. So I think that when we're talking about the key things at United, as we always do, we give the ball away too cheaply. We play Hollywood balls, we play hero balls, and the ball is gone. This is giving the ball away cheaply. We don't work hard enough, we don't track back enough. And there are other things, but I think those two things are really important, and they've been highlighted in the very first interview of Ruben Amorim. He's saying we lose the ball too often and we need to run back better. That's the manager of Manchester United drawing two massive lines in the sand for every Man United fan to know that on Sunday we should not be giving the ball up and we should be working harder. And he goes on to say that we should expect that on Sunday, and it's whether they'll be doing it in a month's time. He even said, look, obviously the players are excited. Obviously they're open to working hard at the moment. It's the first few days. Let's see what it's like in the future. He's not stupid. It's not all, he's not taken us for a walk down Lollipop Lane with candy floss clouds and, gingerbread doors. It's like there's a reality to the optimism. And what I find exciting is that I am very frustrated about how many times we do actually give the ball away. I'm very frustrated by that. And we've seen, when I think about giving the ball away, he's not the only player who does it, but he is the number 10 and he gives the ball away all the time. Bruno gives the ball away all the time. Well, our manager is saying we've got to stop giving the ball away. This is music to most of your ears because I want us to be a possession team. And to be a possession team, you've got to look after the ball. You've got to be smart. You've got to be patient. And it's so simple, and he's so right. So when the question is, what are the quick impacts? What are the quick wins you can make at Manchester United? He literally says it's the simple things. In the short term, it's the simple things. Because obviously we're not going to play 3-4-3 like Sporting in the first few weeks of the season, of his era. But what we can do is stop giving the bloody ball away. Work hard better. And this is just brilliant because it's so simple. He can make Man United better, because if we stop giving the ball away as much and we start working harder, well, that makes us instantly better than the last few months anyway. So absolutely spot on. Really, really excited about that. I'm going to go through it now, but I suppose the next question we'll go to is the transfers, and then we'll go chronologically. So he was asked about recruitment. There's been a lot of money spent at Manchester United over the last 10 years. What's the recruitment process at Manchester United now he's in? Will he be allowed to buy players, etc.? And he basically said, look, we need to improve the process of recruitment at this football club together. Hence the Christian Vival and Ashworth and Barada and Wilcox and the coach himself. Although he did refer to himself as a manager, and many people want to call him a coach. He called himself a manager. He said, look, I need to be in the strongest position, and have the final word should be with the manager. That's from Amorim. I need to be in a strong position, and the final word should be with the manager, which is me. However, we have to work together to improve the recruitment process, and everyone needs to be on the same page, and then we can buy and sell players. And then he was asked, so you're telling us that you are in control? And he said, I choose the players. And he also went on to explain why he chooses the players, because ultimately he's the one who is accountable, because he picks the players. It's his team. So I think there's been a lot of misinformation on this, and I think we're finally sort of getting a little bit more clarity, which I thought we would get in the first press conference anyway. There is no point in Dan Ashworth or anybody else inflicting on Amorim players that he doesn't want, and there is no point in Amorim or anybody else. There's no point in Amorim having people that doesn't fit in to his plan, and there's no point in him having players sold that he doesn't want to sell. So the final word with the manager makes sense. But I think it will be a collective. I think it has to be a collective. And if it's not a collective, then obviously we've got problems. So I'm very excited about that as well. And it makes sense. You know, we're trying to play a system that we've never played before. You've got to have Amorim on board. But all that actually means is that everybody's working together. I think United's been such a political animal for 10 years, where players can go behind a manager's back to a CEO who will sack the manager, or there's all sorts of stuff going on. And what we actually need is collectiveness, where we've got really good recruitment and everybody's communicating, and it's like, I found this player. Do you think he's good? I really like him. Yeah, let's try and get him. Or I found this player. Not quite right. Okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. And that's all it is. It's just common sense as far as I'm concerned. He was also asked about how long it's going to take for Manchester United to get back on top. He said, look, there's lots of areas to look at and understand. But it's, and he also said, look, there's a physical aspect as well. The way I play football, these players will be physically not capable of, basically, at the moment. He also said it's the middle of the season. And hence no pre-season and no transfer window. So I think there was a realism from Amorim there, that there's a lot to take in, there's a lot for him to understand, there's a physical aspect, it's the middle of the season as well. But he also said it's Manchester United, you do have to win games as well. So there is that. And that leads into yet another bit, which I'm going to jump forward to. And I think this probably could be, I mean, for me, I liked what he said about winning the ball back and not giving the ball away. I liked what he said about the transfers, but probably, actually, if I'm being honest, this maybe is the biggest soundbite. And it goes back to how long it's going to take. There is no room for error here. There is no room for misinterpretation. This is as clear as day. When you come in as Manchester United manager and you look at the squad that you've got and you have a style of play, and you look at the players and they can't do it, do you proceed with your style of play, or do you go, I'll do a hybrid of it to suit the players until I can get the players I want in? Effectively what Ten Hag did, and maybe other people did. You go, Rangnick did it as well. You look at them and you go, they can't do this. Let's change it slightly to suit. This is what he said. You have to consider it. There is two options there. There is my way, or there is the adaptable way. And he said, absolutely 100%, it's my way. There is no second way. I'm getting goosebumps. Some will adapt to it. Some won't adapt. But you will see on Sunday, there is a difference in the way that we position the team. So I think this is absolutely fantastic. There is no room for people to be confused by that. There is no room for the players to be confused by that. This system of Amorim is the way we're going to play. We're going to try and play it from day one, and we're not going to deviate from the plan. And he was very, very clear on this. It is my way 100%. And he didn't leave, as I said, no grey area. He acknowledged, yeah, there are two options here. You go with your way, or you just take your time and try and work with players and change things a little bit. And he said, no, my way 100%. We go with it. And I think that is absolutely brilliant. So we've got a manager that's 100% going to go with the way that he plays. Big up. We've got a manager that's 100% going to be choosing the players. Big up. And we've got a manager that has called out, for me, two of the biggest issues with United over the last 10 years. We give the ball away too much and we don't run hard enough. So realistically, the recipe is there. We just got to bake the cake. Now that's the hardest bit, because if you haven't got the ingredients, you can't bake the cake. But positive, honest, transparent, with integrity, says Dweller. And he's just talking about me. He's not. He's talking about Amorim. In his interview, I like how he sets both short and long-term expectations. He's not trying to hide the magnitude of the job. As fans, that's refreshing, says Patrick Lynch. Great point, Patrick. I'll talk about that in a moment. Should run a stat how much Bruno loses the ball, says Caitlin. And Cameron Aitken with a £5 super chat says, my favourite line, you had a perception of the club before joining. Is it bigger and better than you expected? Yes, it is better. Not better, says Cameron. Okay, get your comments in. We'll read some of those out. What are your thoughts? So yeah, just going back to what Patrick Lynch said there, he was also asked, Ruben Amorim was asked, is 2.5 years long enough to do it? And I thought this was a really good answer as well, because he said, look, if you look at the big clubs and the success they have, and I don't think he was specifically talking about the Premier League, but let's look at Man City, let's look at Liverpool. They've been the two most successful clubs in recent years. And he said, if you look at the big clubs, there is a bigger project there. It's not been done in 2 years. It's a longer project. Man City's project under Pep actually started before Pep came in, like with Mancini and Pellegrini. You know, they were building that project from 2008, and now it's sustainably successful. So he was basically saying, look, if you want the success in the modern game, in the modern Premier League, look at Klopp at Liverpool. He built it, and now, even though he's not there, Slot's benefiting from it, and they have a structure. So Man United don't have a structure, and the big clubs that are successful build it over a period of time. But he didn't use it as an excuse and say, I need longer than 2.5 years, because what he said is, look, we're going to need longer than 2.5 years, which is longer than the contract he has. But in 2 years, we'll see if my plan is working and make a decision. And I think that is really intelligent, because it's like, it puts to bed the contract conversation, because it's like 2.5 years isn't long enough. Every big club that's successful builds it over longer than that. But over the first 2 years, we will see. And I felt the way that he said it as well was very much for his decision as well. He will see after 2 years as well if the project is working. So yeah, really, really good on that. Spoke about how long. Is it an evolution or revolution? He said, it's not revolution. It's not very different, actually. He said, look, 3, 4 or 5 at the back, it's not that different. And you'll see it on Sunday. It might be the same players being picked, but the positioning will be slightly different. But he said, look, it's not a revolution, because the system, although it's a 3-4-3 or a 5, whatever, he says it's not massively different to a back four. But he said, the style will be a change. The way we play football will be a change, but he didn't want to call it a revolution or an evolution. He was asked about speaking to Jose. He said he sent a message saying it's a lovely club with lovely people. And he was asked about, we've done the quick impact. He said, look, I feel I'm at the right age, at the right moment, and I'm the right guy for the job right now. We spoke about recruitment. He was asked if it's the impossible job. And he said, "Look, it's a big challenge. It's a very big challenge." But he basically said, "Look, if you're asking me what the biggest challenge is here, in context of is the job impossible?" He almost said, "Well, if the job's impossible, I've got to tell you why it's impossible." And he says, "I don't know what my biggest challenge is at the moment. Ask me in the future, because I'm not sure I've found out what the biggest challenge is yet." And I thought that was very intelligent, because it acknowledges the fact that the job's hard. And it is hard. It's a very, very hard job. And he said, I don't know what my biggest challenge is. I've not been here long enough. I'll have to find out. But he said it's not impossible. I don't think it's an impossible job. I believe I'm the right guy for the job. But there was some really good stuff in there that it's like, it is a big job, and I don't actually know how big the job is yet, because I haven't found what the biggest challenges are. And he was asked the question about, you've said you're going to back these players and you believe in these players, but these players got Erik ten Hag sacked this season, weeks ago. They got him sacked. So how can you believe in players that got a manager sacked? And he said, because I have to. I have to believe in them, because I've maybe only had 2 or 3 training sessions, but I see they are excited and they want to work hard. And I feel that hard work and desire until they prove me wrong. But what he basically was saying is that, he basically acknowledged that these players obviously did get a manager sacked. That's the bottom line. But in the short period of time I've been with them, I believe their hard work, excitement and desire. But he was almost saying as well, I know it's only 3 training sessions. At this moment in time, I believe in these players until they show me I can't. And that will come. That will come. If you're like what Ricky was saying yesterday, a leopard doesn't change its spots, that will come. So there is nothing wrong with Amorim saying, I believe in all my players, because from what he's seen of them in training so far, they are working hard, they are excited, and they are open to working hard. But obviously, he acknowledged it himself. Of course, you would expect that. It's exciting. It's the first few days of a manager. So I believe in them now until they prove I can't believe in them. And effectively, if you're thinking of a player that he can't believe in, what Amorim's saying is, well, right now, they're showing me that I can believe in them. But I'm not blindly going to back and believe players if they don't do what I ask them to do. So, again, a very good answer, because there are people out there going, well, why is this player? Why is that player? Because at the moment, they're doing what they do. A new manager comes in and they work their arse off and they smile and and the manager probably thinks, I don't understand why you've got such a bad reputation. He's been brilliant for me. We've got to have to be patient and see if they can sustain that. So, but it was a good answer from Amorim, because he's saying, look, these players at the moment, every single one. And of course, we've had a massive injury crisis for the last 12 months. There's only Harry Maguire injured at the moment. So everything that Amorim has in front of him is not a reality to what the reality has been. Everybody's working hard. Everybody's got a smile on their face. Everybody's excited. Everybody's fit. That hasn't been our reality. But I don't think Amorim's blind to the fact that, you'd expect this in the first few weeks. Mike JBA has gifted a membership as well. Don't tell Mojo. Mike, you're a legend. Thank you. Hope you're doing very well. He said, what about changing positions of players? Obviously, it's a 3-4-3. Are you going to be adaptable to that? And he said, look, at the moment, every player is open to being adaptable and changing positions. And he sort of joked along and said, if I asked an outfield player to play in goal this week, they would, because they're excited and they're open to change because it's all new. In the future, we'll see how many of these players are open to change. And what that basically means is, if you're, let's just pick a random player. If you're Ahmad and you're playing against Ipswich and you're starting and you're playing, at on the right hand side where you've got to trap back and defend, and he does it with a smile on his face, great. If in 6 weeks' time he wants to be playing behind the striker, but he's still having to do all that, is he still going to be happy with it? Is he still going to be performing? I use Ahmad because I think Ahmad would be fine, but you can use different players. And again, Amorim's sort of like saying, at the moment, everybody's really excited. If I ask them to play in goal, they'll play in goal. But in the future, whether they will be, we'll have to wait and see. And that is a very important point, because what is one of United's biggest problems? It's not Christmas Day. It's the week in between Christmas, isn't it? When the novelty and excitement of Christmas Day is gone, and now you've got to find you've got to put in the hard work, because it ain't Christmas Day anymore. So I think that's what he's saying. He's like, at the moment, he could probably go and ask them to drive the bloody bus to Carrington and somebody would do it. But in 4 or 5 weeks or 4 or 5 months, when they're not enjoying it there, or they're not enjoying the football, then it becomes different then. And these things will happen. Like he actually said himself about recruitment. When we've gone through the project of improving recruitment and understanding everybody's part, at that point we can buy and sell players. He even said himself, sell players. So I think it will certainly be part of the strategy. He was also asked about the belief of players, and do you think that has been a problem this season? And again, I think this was just another example of the fact that he clearly has seen a lot of Man United playing, because he said, look, this is normal. It's normal that players lose belief, especially when you're not doing well. He said that, you get suspicious as a player, you doubt yourself, the first touch, controlling the ball, passing the ball, you doubt yourself, everything starts to creep in. It's normal at any football club. It's not just Manchester United. When things aren't going well, the pressure, it can impact on you. And he said, look, my job is I have to help them. I have to help them understand their abilities and be confident in their abilities, and it will take time, but I believe they are good enough. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, look, I was talking to somebody when I was driving back from Manchester, and they were asking me about Amorim, and I said, look, everything is really positive. I mean, and the press conference I hadn't heard when I took that conversation, but again, it's very positive. But I remember this with Mourinho, talking about Portuguese exciting managers. I remember Mourinho when he came in, and it was all very exciting, and it was very my way, and I really believed in it, and it all came crashing down, didn't it? So we've seen plenty of managers come into this football club, talk the talk, have really good ideas. And I also think about Ralf Rangnick. I think Ralf Rangnick, when you look at his architectural role in modern football, it's very impressive. And you look at what he's done with Austria. I mean, they're not a European giant, and they're a good team. But at United, he couldn't get them to do it. And it doesn't make Rangnick a bad coach. It doesn't make Jose a bad coach. It doesn't make Ten Hag a bad coach. What it means is that they just can't get it through. We've got to look at, again, we've got a really good coach here, a very exciting coach who clearly knows the problems, who clearly has a very interesting style of football. And we need to just be aware of what the things are that are going to stop him, because he might not be successful, not because he's not a good coach, but because the same barriers are in the way. What were the barriers that stopped Ten Hag? What were the barriers that stopped Mourinho? What were the barriers that stopped Rangnick? And one of the barriers straight away is the lack of football IQ for the players to play the systems they wanted to, or the lack of personality, or the lack of consistency, or the lack of work rate. Is he going to get all of that out of this current set of players? Highly unlikely. So therefore, there has to be a real strategy to replace those players. And we have to be able to remove players, whether they're on a big wage or not. We've got to be able to do that, because unless he pulls a miracle off and every single player suddenly starts working hard, playing well, and then winning major trophies, there will have to be some rotation. And that's the thing that I think held out a lot of other managers. Positive, honest transparency. I hate how everyone is like going to drop favourites. Wow, amazing, get him in. But the second season, the playing of favourites repeats, and Ten Hag wasn't the first to play favourites, says Ditto. Players on Millionaires Row on silly contracts has been the biggest issue. Sorry to repeat this theme, says Benoit. Still the same players. Can't forget this, unfortunately, says Simon. But you know what, Simon? You don't need to forget it, because I do actually think that there is a positive to that, is that I think most people I talk to are very excited about Amorim, and they really like what he could be. But everybody is talking about, well, yeah, very, very excited about what he could be. But the big problem is the players. And maybe we weren't talking about that with every other manager that came in. I think there is that real acceptance that the players are now on trial. The players are the people that have to deliver. And if they don't, then it will be on them. So, and as I said, look, if you're tuning in a little bit late, the three big things from the interview that really stood out to me were that he's clearly watched us play a lot to highlight. There's just numerous things in that interview that really stood out, that he has watched us play a lot. Especially the fact that we give the ball away and we don't work as hard. I think the transfers thing was really interesting, that he says, I'm the guy who's going to be in charge of that. That was very interesting as well. And also, again, the hat trick for me is, will you be playing your way, or will you adapt it to the players so that you can hit the ground running and get some results? And very, very clearly, no, it will be my way from day one. And I think that is just so important when we're talking about, hitting the ground running. And as Dan O'Connell says, thanks for the super chat, mate. He says, he keeps talking about professionalism and standards. Yes. I mean, look, he did actually, it wasn't actually in the press conference, but he must have been asked somewhere about Rashford and Casemiro going to America. And he basically said, look, it was agreed with the club. They had 5 days off, and they went to America. No one can say no to that. So, and that's it. You move on. Everybody can have an opinion on it. Gary Neville obviously had his. We spoke about it this morning. But United gave them 5 days off, and they went to America. That's not going to be a reason to have a problem with the player. You might look at it as a manager and go, how dedicated is that professional then, that they would go and take 2 massive flights this time of the season? Or he might look at it and go, I really don't care. So it was in Gary Neville's interview, apparently, says layer cake. So yeah, there we go. Paul Rice says, who cares? It's insanity to me. Well, some people do, Paul. It's called having a different opinion, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, look, we're only 48 hours now. Just over 48 hours away from the game against Ipswich. Very excited to see how that lineup looks. I do have this feeling. I know it's weird because we spoke about it on the show with Ricky and Beth yesterday, but I do have this feeling he's going to put Rashford up front, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I think he's going to do that, and it will make me feel a little bit sick in the mouth, actually, because I just don't think that's a long-term solution. But this wizardry could be it could be transformative. Look, I'm not saying Rashford should be dropped. That's not what I'm saying. I just wouldn't play him as a striker. I'd rather he was on the wide or in behind with Bruno. But will Yoro start? Will Mainu start? Will Agate start? Will Garnacho start? Will Ahmad start? Will Rasmus start? What's the 3 centre-backs going to be? I think it's going to be really interesting. But I think for me, regardless of the personnel, the most important thing is the team, and the team is Manchester United. And I think the thing that I'll be looking at, especially in that first half, will be the intensity, which we will definitely bring. It doesn't matter if you're an arsehole, lazy and can't be arsed. They can turn up for a couple of games, and they will turn up. I'm really excited to see, more than the intensity and the work, I'm really excited to see what Bruno does with the ball every time he gets it, because it's so identifiable, the Hollywood ball. And sometimes it starts with Onana as well. I mean, how many times did we see Onana diagonal arrow ball to try and get in behind for Rashford? I mean, we won't see that. We'll probably start to see more of Onana playing out from the back, because that's what the manager will want. Will we see these Hollywood balls from Bruno, and they're so identifiable? Will we stop seeing those? There are things that we can very much see very early on with our own eyes that I'm very excited to see how that all sort of pans out. Nobby Nuts says, Ruben gave clear and lucid replies from a set of crap questions from journos' meaningless questions. Respect to him, great upbeat presser, says Nobby. Well, I don't disagree with you on that, mate. I think the whole media around Manchester United is tired and boring, but you know, we can't get Beth into every single interview, unfortunately. But you know, you've got to work with what you've got, and I think he did deliver. He almost took the question and then answered it in a better way, which obviously is an intelligent manager, because there has been times in the past where the questions are so crap and the manager doesn't put the work in and you end up with nothing to talk about. But I thought it was a very good interview, to be fair. I hope Amorim will keep his composure, because the English media are the worst, says Constantine. And QT77 says all post Sir Alex managers were great coaches, but Amorim's the only one that is going to play a different system. Others played 4-2-3-1 with similar styles. He's alluded to this in the presser. Yes. You know what? I know he said it's not a revolution or an evolution, but I think it is an evolution. I think it has to be an evolution, because you are evolving probably 50 years of Manchester United from a flat back four into a 3-4-3. It is a cultural evolution for us in relation to stylistically formation, but more importantly, style of play. I just don't think he wants to have that word associated with it, but it is going to be a very big change, and I don't think we should be afraid of that. I think it's needed. I mean, evolution, revolution, or reset. How many of us have spoken about over the last couple of years, whether it's the ownership, whether it's the manager, whether it's the players, whether it's the style of football? There is a reset that's required at Manchester United, and I think that this is probably the biggest reset you can get stylistically, because it's something Man United have never done. And you can say that the 3-4-3 is similar in ways to a 4 or a 5, but it's not. It's 3 centre-backs that are going to start. We don't do that. We haven't done that. It's not who we are. But it is who we are. And I think we need that. I think we do. And the thing I like about Amorim's system is that when I think about Manchester United and the style that we have, for me, wing play is so important. And there is definitely wingers or width in that system. So very excited to see how it's going to play out on, not just on Sunday, but for the next few weeks. And there's so much football between now and Christmas. It's incredible. I mean, I can't believe how many games we've got, and Christmas is about a month away. So we've got Ipswich, Bodo Glimt, Everton, Arsenal. What's after Arsenal? Forest, Victoria Pleasant, Man City, Spurs, Bournemouth. We've got 9 games. And there's loads more after that. Like, you've got Wolves on Boxing Day. There are 9 games before Christmas for Manchester United. And I think that when that third international breaks out of the way, it's like a football festival, because you get 4. You do get a collection of games, and it's the international break. It really is relentless now from Sunday to March, and there is so much football. So very excited about it. Yes, make sure you smash a like on the video. Absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. But as I said, the 3 takeaways for me: he's in charge of transfers. It's his way. There won't be any deviations from the pathway of the 3-4-3 and the Amorim style of football, which is great. And he has highlighted quick wins that he can change around. We give the ball away too much, we don't work hard enough, and small details in the short term can reap big differences. So very, very excited. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm going to do a little bit of work on the audio. I've got some sound pads to get up. So 8 o'clock show tonight, Friday night. Looking forward to the Friday night show. Get ready for that. Always a bit of a good vibe on that one. And hopefully there'll be a little bit better. The audio will keep getting better and better. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do subscribe. Look at that. We've hit 970. We're on the final 30k towards 2 million now. Never been done. Get involved. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Amazing community as ever. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll be running up the hill at 8 o'clock. Yes, Archie. Thank you very much. Speak to you in a bit.